Hey Paul, how you doing?
Hey Nick, nice to see you.
Yeah, nice to see you too in this rather vibey warehouse actually. So we're at Buchla Friends, and you wanted to show us the Hyperion, which is a kind of modular. Well, explain. Tell me what it is.
So it is a modular synth. It's really geared towards lots of voices and lots of layers. It's optimized to use multiprocessing so that you can have many layers running at once with up to 32 voices. It's a 16-layer synth. Each layer is basically an individual modular patch. And you have an unlimited number of nodes that you can place in the patch. And like I said, up to 16 layers. And each layer you can choose the voice allocation. And for each layer, it also has an arpeggiator, which is independent per layer.
Wow, so it's like a workstation.
Yeah, kind of, although it is actually just a VST-3 and audio unit plugin, like any other, but it's got many layers. It's a multi-timbral capable synth because you can select the MIDI channel on each layer. You can set key and velocity splits on each layer. And you can also have MPE mode enabled per layer. So each individual layer can be an MPE synth or not. So you could play some of the layers as standard chords and some of the other layers as an MPE synthesizer.
So have you got a sound you can play just to give us a taste?
Yeah, let's just have a quick listen to this first one.
I see there's a sort of visualizer there as well, so very Christmassy.
This is the audio output. Yeah, it's quite
Have you
Christmassy.
taken your Christmas decorations down yet? That's what I want.
No, actually, still need to do that. So here you've got multiple different layers. One of them is using an arpeggiator. There's some reverb layers because you can send audio between the layers on 4 aux buses. And there's a pad layer, which is not using an arpeggiation. This is an FM synth. And we have another pad layer, which is using VA oscillator going into filters. You can see what's going on in real time on the edit panels here in terms of filter cutoff.
So there's a whole abundance of synthesis types available, isn't it, right?
There are, yes. So when you're editing patches on this graph, you have a node toolbox that you can open by right-clicking on the graph, and then you have many nodes, I think over 150 node types. You can search for specific nodes if you want to, like I might type FIL for filter, and it will list all the filters. But also I can just search by categories. So I could maybe look for the MIDI-related nodes, my voice generators, different filters in my voice processing, modulations, global modulations, processing nodes, some math and logic nodes. And then these green nodes are the effects bus nodes, and there's multiple kinds of effects, distortion, bit crushing, granulation.
Wow, I mean, it sounds like there's a heck of a lot going on. I mean, there are other environments that have similar amounts of capabilities and granularity, but I've not heard of yours before. Really, it seems to have been sort of slipped under the radar a bit.
It really has been flying a little bit under the radar, and so I'm really happy that Peter at Buchla was organizing this event. So gives me a chance as a small company one-man company to come out and hopefully get some recognition and some visibility.
So what have you got? Another couple of patches we can have just to sort of, because it sounds like there's a huge variation.
So actually, I've got in the factory patch set, there's 850 patches, combis and singles, and there's also a couple of patch packs that I've just released. Each of those have got 100 sounds in each of those packs. Those are available as add-ons. But let's listen to some of my favorites. I'm just going to turn on the favorites filter here on the patch selector. And then we can just sort of randomly go through with the random button here.
And you've got macros for each of the high patch levels.
Yeah,
as well.
all the macros are pre-mapped and given specific names for each patch.
So what's this right? I mean, what I see there's a Mac Mini in there. I mean, I mean, it sounds like all this capability. How's it on the DSP on the CPU? What's
so one of the reasons it's quite efficient is because it uses multi-core processing or multi-threading. So every single voice is processed on an individual thread if it's available, and there's a thread pool based on the CPU type that you're using, and the voices will be processed in sequence on those threads in parallel if possible. And they're not, the whole lot's recombined into the final output. So if you have a modern CPU like the Mac M2, in this case on the Mac Mini, it's pretty efficient. This is like a 4-layer patch. Each patch has got multiple voices running and different types of oscillators and filters, and it's taking about 30% of the CPU. And when I say CPU, this is not actually the CPU load, but the audio load. So
Right.
It's actually the amount of time within the audio callbacks. And this gives you a representation of
So I mean, it can be chunky, but it's
it
you're
can be
getting a lot
chunky,
there.
but you can also be quite simple and just use a single layer patch if you want, and it can be quite light actually, depending on the patch. So this is
Interesting.
kind of more of a bread and butter type sound.
Yeah, but it's sort of
this-
unique flavor to it as well.
It can do, very spacey types of sounds, but it can also do very bread and butter type sounds because it's got FM synthesis, and you can do like DX7 style sounds on it as well. This one's using a vowel filter,
Okay, like
so that's why you're hearing that kind of.
yeah. It sounds nice. I mean, so if you wanted to get into some actual synthesis programming, I mean, how it looks, I mean, from the layman first time, that looks kind of complex. But could you break it down a little bit and show us how a sound is constructed?
Yeah, let's do that. I'm going to clear everything, clear all the layers out here. We can do it from first principles. If you don't want to do that, you can also select init patches, and I've got some examples on how to start. So, this will be a very simple patch, like the most basic. But we can also, let's just create it from scratch just to show you how easy that is. And one of the things I've done is I've added a list of commonly used nodes, which gives you a selection of like the most often used nodes that makes it quick to make a patch to begin with. So we need a notes input. We need a way to get our notes into the system. We want an oscillator and maybe a filter, and we want audio output for the voices, and maybe we want to have an envelope to control the level, and another envelope to control the filter, and
So that's a
perhaps
basic
we'll have some FX
subtractive voice.
output,
Yeah.
and let's just have a reverb and a chorus. And I'm just going to connect those all up. So these green nodes are effects bus nodes. These blue nodes are voice nodes. And the orange nodes are data nodes or control nodes. Each of the pins have got tooltips. So when you hover the mouse, it will tell you what they are. And when you drag, it will hint which pins you can connect to. So here the F is highlighted because it knows that it's a frequency input pin. If I try to connect to an audio pin, it will tell me that that's not a valid pin. So here I'm going to connect the frequency to the oscillator, and I'm going to connect the trigger to the ADSR, and I'm going to connect the output of that to the audio level. And we should start to hear something.
Right, so it sounds like we've got a sine wave maybe, or?
So that's a sine wave, but let's change to square wave. So there's multiple oscillator types. Maybe we'll modulate the filter as well.
Right, so yeah, I mean that's pretty.
And we can add unison detune to the oscillator. Maybe let's change these envelopes. And each of the oscillators have got a wave folding parameter and a crush amount, so bit crushing. And they also have an oscillator sync mode. You can visualize the waveform by clicking on this eye icon, and it opens up the bigger viewer.
I mean, this environment is absolutely immense. I mean, there's kind of so much going on in there.
Say that again?
It's immense. There's so much going on
There's
in there.
a lot of options, yeah. And this is just a standard oscillator. There are other kinds of oscillators, as I've mentioned. Wave sequencing oscillators let you build up a sequence of configurations for each step and then crossfade between them. You can also draw your own oscillator with an MSEG. So I've got an editor here. I can just draw a curve, add some points, and make my own wave shape. Whoops, sorry. Let's drag that up. So
right,
here's
like
a wave shape.
Almost like function generation.
Yeah, and I can feed that into here and patch up the frequency as well. Let's just turn that off. And these drawable oscillators also have unison and detuning and wave folding and crush as well.
So if you buy it out of the box, what does it come with? I mean, what's the kind of the base configuration?
I mean, it comes with all of these nodes, 150 or so nodes. And I keep adding things all the time. Just last week, I added something called ring harmonics. Every few weeks, I'm making a new release and I'm adding new oscillator types. In fact, these drawing oscillators were only added last week.
Right, okay. So it's very much kind of you buy. So
yeah.
And it's not subscription, it's a one-off purchase,
No,
right?
It's one-off purchase.
And what's that cost?
It's $129 before any discounts. And Tracktion is the partner I work with to sell.
Right, okay.
So Tracktion
use
Market
their store, right, okay.
They often have, sale periods like, at Christmas or New Year's or whenever, like Valentine's Day, whatever. They'll have a discount every so often. So you can usually get it for around $100.
Wow, I mean, that seems like immensely good value. And it'll do sample playback as well? Does it handle does sample playback and multi-samples, that kind of thing?
Yes, it definitely does. So, yeah, let's load up a patch with a sample in it. I'm trying to think what I could use here. Well, this is a very strange one. This is just. Oh, okay. Maybe that's not the one I wanted.
It's generative, though.
That's a generative one. Okay, this one. This one's got a sample in it. It's got a piano sample. And here's the sample player. And yeah, you can always load in your own samples just by clicking on the load button. And here you can see the progress of the voices through the sample.
Lovely visualization. Is that
And
multi-sample, or is that
this
a single?
is a single sample in this case, but it also supports sound font nodes, which are, multi-samples. In fact, in this patch, there is a sample and a sound font as well. So this sound font is a lo-fi piano sound font.
Right.
There isn't actually a sound font editor in this synth, but you can, use free-to-use editors and build your own sound fonts and import them into the synth.
Amazing. And so just to recap, we were listening, this is it Mac and PC or just Mac only?
It's Mac and PC, VST-3 audio units, and that's it. It's also a standalone, and as well as it being a synthesizer, it can also be used as a effects processor. So it has an audio input node, which you could use to process sidechain from another track. And because it has also compressors, you could use the audio input from another track to sidechain your compressor within the synth engine.
Right, so really, it looks like an immensely powerful system. Well done. I mean, kind of blown away. And so, I mean, I could see you're talking in terms of codes and threading. So you're coding it, doing the graphics, building the patches.
Yeah, this is a one-man job. I had to develop all the oscillators and filters and effects myself, all the GUI work, all the marketing, all the patch design.
Oh, well done. I mean, that's like, well, often that gives it a real purity of a vision, because you have complete control. You don't have to compromise.
Purity of madness, probably.
Maybe. Paul, thank you so much. That's really interesting.
Thanks, Nick. I would encourage people to go check out wavesequencer.com and check out all the demo videos that I have on my YouTube channel, Hyperion Synth. And also, I wanted to quickly mention Taya, which is the patch player product. Taya gives you access to the same patches as Hyperion, but it's half the price of Hyperion.
So it's like a player.
And it's just a patch player. But although it's just a patch player, you can go in here and edit the individual levels of the different layers, and you can control the arpeggiation settings, and you can control the velocity and key splits, polyphony, pitch bend ranges, etc. All to do with notes input. And yeah, it has kind of a curated set of patches, all of the sort of more musical patches. And some of the more experimental ones I didn't add to Taya because they're not really keyboard players patches. So if you want to do generative style patches, I could quickly load up a generative one if you've got a moment. Let's just filter by generative. This one. Let's try a different one. So this is a self-playing patch. There's another one. So in this patch, one of the layers is generating all of the data and using scale mapping nodes to map random LFO inputs onto a particular scale. In this case, it's a pentatonic scale, but you can pick different scale types. And then those are being sent to individual channels of the synthesizer. Here, synth channel 1 is this layer, and another note sender here is sending to synth channel number 3, which is the soft FM bell patch.
Lovely.
So you don't have to use it as a keyboard player's modular. You can use it as a generative ambient patch generation system.
Thank you very much, Paul.
Thank you.